All right, so the Euro Nations Hockey Championships get underway this weekend, and it all gets underway in the Netherlands with a repeat of the World Cup final of 2018. Ireland playing the Netherlands. That one is on Saturday. Also in Ireland's pool, Scotland and Spain. Games to come against them over the following 5 days. I'm delighted to be joined by the Ireland goalkeeper, Ayeisha McFerran. How are you keeping, Ayeisha?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for having me. Straight
in at the deep end then on Saturday.
Yeah, geez, that's one way to start a tournament, isn't it? You wouldn't want to go in any easier than that.
So the Dutch are two-time world champions, silver medalists at the last Olympics, which for them is a huge disappointment because they'd won gold in the previous two Olympics. But you're now playing your club hockey over in the Netherlands, so you know these players inside out.
You would like to think so after kind of 2 seasons here, but yeah, the Dutch are just the Dutch. You know, they can whip out kind of any skills at any point. So yeah, we'll see what happens come Saturday, but we're really looking forward to the challenge for sure.
With a couple of years under your belt then in the Netherlands, are you more fearful of the quality of their players that you see it day in, day out, or does it sort of normalise it, it raises your level, and actually there's nothing that can really surprise you with them at this stage?
I wouldn't say there's nothing that really surprises me, but I definitely think it's really helped me kind of raise my level. You're facing the best players week in, week out, and that kind of takes the surprise element away a bit. But again, the way their culture is here, they're just brought up and everything's just so good. So it really has made me kind of adapt and improve my game. Otherwise, I'd be kind of left high and dry myself playing against them.
That culture that they have then from a young age, and it's a culture I think that's probably becoming more and more prevalent in Ireland as well because of the inspiration that team of 2018 has been, and so many players have taken it up and they're going to be playing hockey at a much younger age. When you look at the way that hockey is taught in the Netherlands, how different is it from what you would have been brought up in around Ireland?
I just think the fact that they're on hockey pitches as soon as they can walk. Like as soon as the child is born, their parents are back to the club and they're bringing the kid with them. And I think that's kind of the difference. Most of the time you don't really see that. Kids running about 4, 5, 6-year-olds with hockey sticks in their hand. And from the get-go, they're always working just on their basics, just having fun with it. And I think that's maybe what's been missing from whenever I was coming up. I started probably a bit later, maybe 8 or 9, and that kind of couple of years, it probably does make all the difference, and just having fun with it. And yeah, it's definitely something like I'm seeing more and more now after 2018. But you'd love it to grow that little bit more and kind of hopefully help us in the future having little ones come through.
With the international side, you're obviously well used to playing at an incredibly high level, but at club level, the difference from what you would have experienced before this, I presume it's just like any sport, it's all just that little bit quicker than you would have found here in Ireland or in other parts of the world, that, as you say, because of what they've come through, actually everything's 100 miles an hour, whereas maybe the club level you would have been at previously was maybe slightly slower?
Yeah, 100%. The club level here, it's definitely the closest to international level, and that's kind of why I kind of targeted coming to Holland, because it made that kind of jump that little bit smaller. But it's just the quality of the players as a whole. I would say the standard is that bit higher across the team. Yes, you have your internationals, you have your young internationals coming through, but just your average player who's going out for them having fun, it's still, the standard is really, really high. And whenever you look at the training schedules of, we're training as a team 4 times a week, that wouldn't really happen in Ireland. So it is a big difference that we do get together more often, and the quality of just players in general is that bit higher. I definitely think it's kind of improves the overall, kind of adds to the culture of it here in Holland.
When you think back to the World Cup final and the 6-0 for the Netherlands, when you've watched the game back, I presume you have watched the game back, do you look at it and think that was a fair reflection of the gap within the squad, or was it that actually this was a group of players in the Netherlands who were well used to playing big games? There was maybe not the same sense of occasion for them as there was for the Irish players?
I think probably a combination of both. I think given it was our first time ever being in that environment, having to play back-to-back, having to play 7, 8 games in a tournament, it was definitely something that it was a new experience to all of us, and we never knew how to track tournament hockey that way. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a lesser occasion for them, or the 6-0 reflected the game. I know personally, I think I did not have, that was probably my worst game all tournament, and you would kind of hope coming to the final you'd be leading into your best. But I think like myself, and looking back on it now, I definitely kind of let the occasion get to me a little bit, and probably the fatigue and everything with tournament hockey coming in. But I know we as a squad have kind of looked back on that and targeted that was an environment, and that's something that we can learn on kind of going into the next 2 tournaments this summer.
Do you get a sense over in the Netherlands that those Dutch players now look at the Irish very differently because of what was achieved in that World Cup?
You would like to think so. It would kind of gives you that bit more hope. But yeah, the Dutch are just the Dutch. Their main focus is making sure they're performing, and knowing some of them and some of the players. They're all about themselves and all about still being number one and being the best. So not that I don't want to say they're not looking at us. I would like to hope they would give us a bit more respect than what they did last time or what other teams would, because we've definitely proved ourselves kind of on the international scene the past couple of years. We're continually growing and continually getting better, so we do definitely deserve the respect that's coming our way, that should be coming our way. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how some of them actually I don't want to say act towards us, but in a way, yes, to see if they give us the respect that we deserve, but we also have to earn that respect on the same side.
And with respect as well comes expectation back here in Ireland because of what was achieved in that World Cup. Like, this is an important tournament as well. There's so much focus obviously on the Olympics and on Tokyo, but a Euro Nations Hockey Championship is not just a stepping stone. Going well in that tournament is an achievement in itself. How much time over the past year, and even with COVID and all that, have you been able to think about this? What is the conversation within the group about how important this is as a build up to Tokyo, but as a tournament in its own right?
We as a group have kind of come together and understand the importance of it. As you mentioned, it's of course we want to win. We wouldn't play if we didn't want to win every tournament we go into, but realizing that also this tournament is qualification for World Cup next year. Is a huge stepping stone in itself, and top 5 from the Europeans get into the World Cup next year. But we have set the target that's minimum for us, but we have set our sights higher than that. We know we're better, and we know that we can do more if we put in the good performances to lead to that. Yes, it's 100% a stepping stone to the Olympics and whatever, but this tournament in itself right now is the most important thing that we have to kind of navigate our way through, and that we have to be ready for starting on Saturday. And I think that we definitely all realise that and have come together with the Olympics. Yes, we're there. It's about going and performing. We're the first female team going to the Olympics for Ireland. But that's later on in the summer. Right now, it's Europeans first, and we have to get the job done here.
As you mentioned, there is a dual importance for this, not just the tournament itself, but also World Cup qualification and making sure Ireland get back again. So Netherlands and Spain are already qualified, which means, you say, presuming that they finish and qualify for the latter stages, 4th and 5th should get in to the World Cup as well.
No, it definitely will. So it will actually probably then knock it further down. So
okay.
I think that knowing those 2 teams as well, it's more than likely that they should do the business also. But again, we're just setting our sights minimum. It's getting that qualification, and then we will deal with whatever comes after that.
Do you speak much as a group about the expectation and how you deal with that expectation? Because after the World Cup and getting to a World Cup final, everyone on the outside suddenly takes a real interest in the team and expects that that's the standard that will be attained all the time. So when it comes to a European Championship, that actually anything less than a final is seen as a little bit of a disappointment, whereas you're there week in, week out, you know the quality of the teams you're going up against, you know how much of an achievement it is to get to a semi-final, whereas the outside noise may actually be focused maybe a little bit too high at times.
I think yes and no. I think the expectation for us is good. I think we drive ourselves off that, knowing that we have hopefully created a legacy, and we have the bandwagon from the World Cup, but we ourselves are probably more harder, that we want to do better than what people expect us to do, and that's only going to come with the performances that we put in place. But it's also trying to focus on we're in a completely different place, I would say, now than what we were 2018 at the World Cup. And I think we have younger players coming through. We're trying different systems. We obviously have a different head coach. So there's a lot of different things that have kind of come together. And I think with that also realising that the Europeans is hands down the hardest competition in hockey. The standard and the level of all the teams participating is that top level, and that's what we aspire to play at, and that's what we want to go and win medals and win tournaments with, is playing at that top level. So I think, yes, it is having the expectations, but it's also understanding what the European Championships is. It's probably the top 10 top 10 teams, top 8 teams in the world right now are playing in this competition, which is, for us, it's brilliant because it's only going to drive us on.
You mentioned some of the changes over the last couple of years, and Sean Dancer coming in as coach. There's still 12 of the silver medal winning side around the squad at the moment. The last year and the development of those younger players and how difficult it has been, I guess, for them to get game time. And there have been friendlies, and maybe some of the Northern Hemisphere teams have been far more fortunate than the Southern Hemisphere teams. We listened to Graham Shaw, your former coach, on a podcast during the week, where he's saying they haven't played a game since pre-COVID times down in New Zealand. They're literally just having training games, and there's only so much of that you can do. Has there been a big opportunity for younger players to come through over the last year, or has that been hampered by COVID?
I think yes and no. I think the fact that a lot of younger girls have been able to come, try out at training and see how it goes. Like, Sean has been very good in bringing new faces to training and making sure everyone understands how we want to play and understands our values as a team. I don't think any other year we probably would have had that much opportunity to bring kind of so many new faces, younger girls, maybe older girls who have stepped away and also come back into the program, just to see if it fits for Sean. Yes, we've been very fortunate also to have a couple of games. Like, we had games in January against Spain, we had games against GB and Scotland, and then obviously now we're here. So we have been fortunate, I think, where those younger girls are getting that bit of game experience, where it's not maybe so much pressure is put on the actual game itself, where people can come in, learn what it's like to play international hockey and just try and play free. And I think that's been a real benefit, that we have been able to kind of get those younger girls in, because it's only going to set us up not just for this summer or next summer, but actually for the next couple of years. And it's great having those girls in. They're a good bunch, and they're definitely learning their way about the system.
You missed the series, I think, with Great Britain in March because you had club commitments back in the Netherlands. The impact COVID has had on that squad dynamic, and when you can go away on camps, can you act the way you could have 2-3 years ago, or are there smaller bubbles? Like, when you're talking about that bonding experience for younger players to come through, is it all a bit more difficult?
Yeah, definitely. Like, we're one team that I would say really much drives off the crack and off the fun with each other. Like, we love just sitting after dinner having a cup of tea and just honestly roasting each other. But we actually haven't been able to do that, which it has been missing, and it's been really hard to kind of drive that, because that is one of our big things as a team, is just having fun while we do what we do. So it has really been restricted. We do, the way we work, we have like kind of pods within the team, so it's pods of 4. So yes, you can kind of sit close with the people that are in your pod, but it's not the same. It's not being able just to the whole team just come together, chill, chat, like share stories and just joke with each other. That side is missing, and we're very much looking forward to having that back, hopefully sometime soon.
How different is your role within the squad now? Listen, you're still a young player, but you have so much experience at this stage. You're so highly thought of and highly rated in world hockey. Like, have you taken that on over the last 2-3 years, and as a leader within the group? Is it something you think about your role in the team dynamic and what you need to give?
I think for me, the most important thing is continuing to do my job. It's very easy, and I found this whenever I was younger, getting wrapped up in kind of my name being splashed out a little bit, and I got too into that and not into my team. And that, now looking back at it, I am that bit older, that the team is the number one, and that's the most important thing. And me doing my job for the team is the biggest thing, the biggest way I can help everyone here. But it's also, again, I know what it's like coming in as a younger player. You are nervous. You do have this goalkeeper roaring behind you, and you're like, what's going on? So I think it's also kind of that two-way street of trying to bring people along with me. And like, I'm all for the fun. I love a bit of crack, but it's also about putting an arm around someone and saying, look, you're doing okay. And I've really tried to do that with some of the younger girls coming through. It does take time, especially being in and out. I find that kind of difficult, just because all the players are obviously in Ireland close together training away, and then I'm just popping in. So yeah, it's definitely been a challenge, but I think that it's the most important thing is I continue to do my job and continue to support those around me to keep doing theirs as well.
So when was the period for Ayeisha McFerran when she lost the run of herself?
I think it was definitely, to be honest, I think after last summer, or sorry, just before the Olympics kind of got got postponed, and just kind of the period before that. So I was really struggling with my hockey, wasn't enjoying it as much as I thought I should have been at that point. And honestly, all I could think about was really just not playing. So it wasn't, whenever I was flying back to join the team kind of every week, I didn't have the enjoyment of coming in to see the team. I was coming back to do my job and just be there. And I really, really struggled with that. And I didn't really share that with anyone. And I think that was probably my biggest mistake, because I know everyone in the team obviously would have supported me however I needed. And it was just, I just didn't want to be there. And you could tell with how I interacted with people, how I played. And that's never something I want to get back to. It's not a good spot. But I think after speaking to people about it, and actually after taking the break from the sport that I love, it really then allowed me to kind of fall back in love with it again and find my purpose and what I'm good at, and how I then can connect with the girls on the team.
Was there a moment where you realised, actually, this isn't what it should be about? This isn't the game that I love. This isn't what's getting me out of bed in the morning anymore?
I wouldn't say there was necessarily a moment where it just kind of clicked. I think after periods of, I think I was flying back to Ireland 8 weeks in a row every week for training, and then back to Holland to play, and then back and forth. It started to become more of a chore.
Yeah.
And then that was leading into the qualifiers, and you think that's meant to be the highest moment of your life. You're aiming to qualify for an Olympic Games with your best mates, and you're doing all this hard work, and then you actually go and qualify in front of a home crowd. And yes, of course, I was at that moment in time, I was so happy. We created history. We did what we've always wanted to do. But then, yeah, it's once I reflect back on it, it's like, did I actually enjoy that period of being with the team and doing what I do? Not really as much as I probably should have. And that's where I think if I had shared how I felt earlier, and spoke with the psychologist a bit earlier, I think that maybe would have changed. But again, it's one of those things, who knows looking back at it, when maybe the point was or whatever. But yeah, it's something I've reflected and learned on, and yeah, hopefully going forward we'll never be back there again.
And to make sure you don't end up back there, to just how you came out of that process, was it making changes to your lifestyle, to your routine? How did you get back to making sure you had that love again?
Well, the break definitely helped. I think I was probably one of maybe a handful of people who kind of welcomed the postponement of the Olympics.
Right.
That's where I really took 3-4 months off the sport. Wasn't in my pads, didn't think about it. I just kind of found other things that I enjoyed alongside it. No one, I think, enjoys doing the same thing day in, day out for months on end. So I think I was able to kind of find different ways where I could have enjoyment, have fun, get my head out of hockey. I would class myself as quite a hockey nerd, so if there's anything on the TV with hockey on it, I'd be watching it. So I think having a minute just to get away from the sport really, really helped me. And then just remembering why I started. It's because you have fun. And so once you're able to kind of bring it back down to the simplicity of that, in the moment or through those tough times, it does help you kind of get out of the kind of rut that I was maybe in, that, okay, I do love this. I do it for this reason, because I want to. I get to travel the world. I get to play with my best mates. And that kind of then helps get you out of something which just is always on top of your head and always kind of digging into, yeah, it seems like a chore to do something that you actually love.
Yeah, fun is a bit of a dirty word when it comes to professional sport these days, it seems.
Yeah, you would think that, right? But there has to be a bit of fun somewhere else. No one would do it.
Yeah. Well, what was the distraction then? What did you find during that break that actually meant that there was something, rather than playing hockey or sitting down watching hockey, that you could switch off with?
I actually got really into the Dutch lifestyle of cycling. So I ordered myself a road bike, and it was helmet on, earphones in, away I went. I was still fortunate, again, living in Holland, that we could drive and go to different countries. So I actually went down to the south of Germany for kind of 10 days, just kind of got away, went up to the mountains, went hiking, went swimming, things like that, just to get out, get a breath of fresh air, get out of Utrecht, and have that sort of stuff. And just finding creative ways. Like, I'm naturally quite a creative person, whether it's in the kitchen, drawing, painting, whatever. So it's just, again, just coming back to really simple stuff, that I'm not really having to think too much about being in the pads.
Yeah, when you spoke about the Dutch lifestyle there, I wasn't sure where it was going to go exactly, but the cycling was a good distraction, most definitely.
Yeah.
I saw you earlier this week. You were talking about Naomi Osaka and what she's gone through, and like it's interesting listening to you there. Like, it's so difficult, it seems, for athletes to take that step back, because like, what makes you so good in the first place is the drive and the determination and the commitment levels. And actually, if there is a spell in your career where maybe that's waning slightly, it does seem very hard. And maybe again it's raising the questions, are the processes in place when people go through that sort of experience actually give them that break, that maybe the best thing for your career for the next 10 years is actually that 3-4 month spell where you just switched off from the game completely?
Yeah, I think it's definitely coming to more of an understanding. I think what Naomi has done has taken a step back. It's a big step for her, and I really admire her for what she's doing. She's not only losing financial gains, obviously, of being in the tournament, playing everything, but she's actually getting heat for stepping back, and I think that's kind of the biggest thing. She's stepping away from mental health, and not many people seem to be understanding that. And I really think that sometimes, as I know myself, like, I want to be the best. I hate losing, I hate everything, and you're always told that to be the best you have to do what everyone else isn't doing. So that's training all the time, like no rest, watching videos, doing this, and you're kind of putting into like a machine. And so then a lot of people see athletes as this kind of robotic machine that they're just going all the time, when they don't realize that we are human beings. We do have emotions, we do have thoughts in our heads that maybe they don't understand. And I think that's the biggest thing, which is kind of, you can see it happening more and more now, where individuals are talking about their mental health and are saying, yes, I'm not a robot, I need to take a step back. And I think for us, it is the hardest thing to do, is realize that you just need to take a step back. And I think we're becoming more open to the idea of it, that it does need to happen to ultimately, as you say, make yourself better in the long term for over 10 years or whatever it is, that you maybe need a 3-4 month break. But it is hard when you have just the personal sponsors. You don't want to let teams down. You don't want to let family down. Everyone has always sacrificed stuff for you. But ultimately they will be there to support you, because you're trying to do the best for everyone, not just yourself, but for everyone who's in your network.
Has that bit of balance that you've found then over the last year given you a bit more perspective and maybe something to lean on when there's so much doubt still around the Olympics? Like every day there seems to be a twist and a turn, and I think everyone's conflicted, where we know the athletes, we know what the athletes have given, what it would mean for their career to get there, and the stories coming out of Japan are that 60-70% of the public don't feel that it should go ahead, but the Olympic organisers are saying it is going ahead. Like that level of doubt just a few weeks away from the tournament, have you blocked it out completely, or are you addicted to the news and keeping up to date every day as to what's happening?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's always in the background. It's very difficult to shut off, especially because it is everywhere, and we're still in a global pandemic. So you can understand why. You really do understand why the Japanese public don't want it to go ahead. But I think for me, and I know most of the girls in the team, I think we're trying to just shut that off. It's a distraction which we don't need. And I think it's something that we control, where we're not scrolling through news articles or Twitter or whatever about people discussing it, saying it shouldn't, whatever. We have to try and stay in the moment with what's happening right now. And yes, of course, international athletes, we've all given everything we can to go to an Olympic Games, and we want it to go ahead. But yeah, we can't focus too far ahead on the what ifs. It has to be what can we control now, and what we're staying with is that.
Yeah, focus on the Dutch on Saturday. I presume COVID means that you can't show your Irish teammates that Dutch lifestyle over the next couple of weeks?
No, unfortunately not. That has to be delayed maybe a year or two, or whenever things are back to normal. We'll get them back over, and then we'll actually experience the Dutch life. But yeah, everything's on hold now. We're in the bubble life in the hotel. Not too far to go. It's either the pitch or the hotel for us, so it's not bad. We're at least in a different country with a bit more sun, I think, than at home.
That's glorious here at the moment. Don't know what you're talking about. Ayeisha, listen, very best of luck over the next couple of weeks. We'll be keeping a real close eye on it, particularly against the Dutch this coming Saturday. Good to talk to you as always.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Have a good one.